Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today. My name is Ravi Singh. I'm here with Sabrina Ashuri and Justin Chang. We're three of the six members that make up Connexus Group at Remax Hallmark Realty. We are a top producing team focusing in on the GTA with a lot of experience, I'd say, at this table related to pre construction condos. And those of you who are watching today, you'll hopefully take this in and feel like we're with you in your living room and we're having casual conversation. I know a lot of people have been Zoom exhausted, right? There's been a lot of Brady Bunch talking heads on screens since March, and we thought, you know what, it might be nice to give it a little bit more of a casual approach, a little bit more of an informal approach. So think of you as you're hanging out with us. So a couple housekeeping items. We've got Shant here and he's managing the tech. Thank you, Shan. And we've got Alicia here and she's managing the chat. If you guys are watching this and you're connected, do us a favor. Just drop a hello and say who's watching and just say hello. And throughout this presentation, the goal is really to make it as interactive as possible. So Alicia's going to let us know when you have a question, and we're going to do our best to answer that question. Couple quick announcements. We have a wine sponsor today, so big thank you to the folks at Select Wines. The Los Cardos Malbec is from the Mendoza, Argentina neighborhood. It is Malbec that features, let me just read a little bit here to you, aromas of fresh red and black fruits, berry spices, and cigar box announce a smooth and round wine in mouth. So this is a wine that apparently is going to be a big hit during Thanksgiving. We have 4 of these to give away, and we're going to announce a little bit later on how we're going to do those giveaways. So stick with us. You'll see Sabrina's wearing an orange top. I'm wearing an orange tie. And normally our presentation would be red, white, and blue, navy and dark red. But today we're honoring the Indigenous students who are part of Orange Shirt Day. So, you know, education is important. And as a country, we're moving towards more inclusiveness, more diversity, and just a better version of our country. And we're honoring Indigenous students that were part of the Reformation schools through Orange today. So, with all that being said, Alicia, has anybody said hello?
Yep, few people. Crystal, Kyra, Anish, Leo, Nikki.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks for joining us, guys. I knew Anish was going to be joining us. Kyra, nice to have you back again. Leo, thanks for joining us. Who else did you say there, Alicia? Crystal. Oh, Crystal Faustino, thanks for joining us. And I think there was one more. So, guys, you know, we're going to try and make this like we're talking, right? So, if you have questions, don't hesitate to write, all right? The way we figured we'd do today is we try to make this into the good, the bad, and the ugly, all right? So let's dig in a little bit, all right? So how long through your banking and real estate experience would you say you've been in real estate now, Sabrina?
About 10 years now.
About 10 years. And I know you have a deep background in pre-construction. How many different prospects, clients, buyers, investors in pre-construction do you think you've at least have had a conversation with? Hundreds. And you don't have to give an exact number, but including Icona, which we'll talk about a little bit later, how many units do you think you sold pre-construction?
I'd say about 80.
About 80,
80,
right? So
100.
Sabrina's a huge authority on pre-construction. Reason why I brought up Icona is, I will get to that. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is economic viability clause and buildings and projects getting pulled back. We're going to talk a little bit about that project and your experience.
Okay.
But Sabrina's a huge asset to our team, and we're thankful that she's part of this pre-construction talk. Now, just changing a little bit, Justin, how old were you when you bought your first pre-construction condo?
I was 18 years old.
18 years old. Makes the rest of us think what we were doing with our lives back in our teens, right? Right, Shan? But you're 18, and that was your first one, and that was
The
Rev.
first one. That was Rev, but I bought that with 4 partners.
Yeah, 4 partners. Listen, one of the other themes that we're going to highlight is what you can't do on your own, you can sometimes do with people.
That's right.
And since then, how many more have you purchased?
So I purchased 4 more since then.
So 5 total
Yeah.
since 18. So roughly over, a little bit north of a decade, 5 properties. And that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Another theme that we're going to talk about is what you learn and build expertise in, you can then scale and duplicate,
That's right.
right? So let's talk a little bit about the good. Let's just brainstorm. And for those of you listening, you can make a list of reasons why buying pre-construction presents an opportunity. We're going to talk about the pullbacks as well, but let's talk about the opportunity. What's one reason you'd say pre-construction is good to buy?
Good deposit structure gives you a long time to come up with the 20%.
Yeah, so for those of you listening, when you buy pre-construction, you're not coming up with the total down payment requirement at once. Sometimes it's spanned out, usually it's spanned out over 3 years,
That's
Yeah.
right.
right? Deposit structure is one of the major criteria. What's the best deposit structure you've ever seen, Justin?
I've seen one where like you put down 5% like in 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
and then you put down another. Some builders will allow you to extend it maybe another year for the next 5%, and then maybe 6 months after that 1 year another 5%. So you have pretty much almost 2.5 years to come up with 15%.
15% over 2.5 years is a lot easier than, hey, write a check right now for $150,000.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Right? I'll share with you guys, we bought a condo together, and it was at District, and big shout out to Eric Kouzian and the folks at Austin Birch and our good friend Tanaz. We got a great unit there, great price per square foot, and the deposit structure on that was 2.5% installments.
That's right.
So imagine, the difference between needing 20% at once or 2.5 installments over 18 months, right? So deposit structure is a major pro or advantage of pre-construction. What's another one?
You can defer getting your mortgage until the condo's actually completed. So let's just say I buy pre-construction now, and I know I maybe can't qualify for that amount right now, but who knows, in 4 years you might get a promotion, you may be able to put more down, so you are able to get your mortgage 4 years down the line versus right now.
Yeah, so planning, right? I mean, let's just say you're a bit in business for self. We've got a client right now that has a very successful business, but it's only 6 months old, right? I mean, if you have a track record of 4 years by the time you close, usually you can plan to secure a mortgage, right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
So deferring deposits, deferring mortgage or financing. What's another one?
Get something brand new. You
Bra-
have to pick your own finishes, pick your own floor plan.
Yeah. So, that's a huge one too, right? There's a sense of pride when you get to be part of that design element.
That's right.
And if you're buying a home, sometimes being able to choose what you want is a lot different than going to the resale and buying it. And also condition, right? When you
Yeah.
buy brand new, 2 things. You have a Tarion warranty,
Yeah.
bumper to bumper for the first year, and then all the major mechanicals for
7 years.
7 years. 7
Yeah.
years structural,
Structural. That's right.
major mechanicals for 2
2
years,
That's right.
right? And then builders have the PDI, right?
Yeah.
Where they deliver the product, and when you get it, you get to literally outline everything. Anish, if you're listening, I know you've been through a couple of those, and I've been with you when you've done your 30-day, and I know all about your PDIs. I mean, it's chance to really nitpick and pick everything. I
Yeah.
really say this, fix for us.
That's
Right.
right.
Sure.
Any more big advantages you can think of?
I mean, nowadays, before when I first started buying pre-construction, the big advantage was getting it at today's price for a product that's coming in 4 years' time. I still think that is the case, and maybe the builders now have kind of eaten the investors' margins a little bit, where they're charging maybe 2-year future value price for something that's 4 years down the line, versus
Yeah.
before I was getting today's price for something 4 years down the line. So I think the builders now are getting a little bit smarter, where it's like, okay, well, these investors are making a little bit too much money. I'm gonna raise the price up a little bit. So, but I still do think that there is a price or equity benefit if you do buy pre-construction, if your condo's not done for another 4 or 5 years, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? We have to put ourselves in the shoes of what that neighborhood what that intersection will look like when it closes,
Exactly.
Exactly.
right? I mean, for example, there's so many examples, but I'll just pick one. So when I was in the nightlife industry, the guys from Lifetime, they partnered with Charles Caboth to build Bisha Hotel and Residences. And at that time, it was the jaw-dropping price. And when we talk about pre-construction, we talk about it in terms of price per square foot. So the price per square foot at that time was the jaw-dropping price of $700.
Wow.
And today, and forget today, when you got your keys for that property, it was north of 1,000,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And 700 was expensive at that time,
It was.
That's right.
right? So, you know, let's pick another one. Which is a, it was so expensive when it launched. It seemed so pricey, but when we got it, it was a great equity appreciation. What's another one you can think of?
Jane and Highway 7.
Oh my
Bond.
gosh,
Yeah,
great example,
absolutely.
right? Jane and Highway 7 was just an idea when Transit City went up.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right? Transit City, for anyone else curious, is at the corner of what finally came to be the Vaughan Metro Center, which is the subway, right? The subway now goes to basically Jane and Highway 7.
Concord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get
And-
downtown in 40 minutes.
Sabrina, when you were selling, for example, at Transit City or Icona or let's just pick
Cosmos.
Cosmos, what was the price per square foot back then?
It's 6, high 6.
High
7.
six. So let's say 680 to 700.
Yeah.
And today, there's a launch in that neighborhood where the developer Menkes is asking for 1100,
Hmm.
right? So the margin is there, but probably, and just so everybody gets this while we're talking about this and anybody watching, when you look at that 680 to 720 per foot that Sabrina was selling at Cosmos, you know, if you went to the property that was already existing, foot on the ground, it would have been cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? And that's what Justin was talking about. Like, the builder has sort of eaten the first year's appreciation.
That's right.
Absolutely.
They're good at what they do. They know how to build margin, right? Any more major advantages? I'll mention one. Usually, if you buy a pre-construction condo as an investment tool, or a condo as an investment tool, you have to carry the mortgage and the maintenance and the property tax. And in order to pay for that monthly, you have a tenant who pays you rent. And with any tenant, there are going to be headaches, right? There's not, no tenant's perfect, and even the best tenants, you're going to have something. When you buy pre-construction, you have 4 years of equity tenant free, right? I think that's one of the things that a lot of people like. I have a client, he did very well at Thompson Residences, and when he went in with his girlfriend at the time, I know he was nervous, I know he was apprehensive. Looking back now, he just wants to pull the trigger on more, but he wanted to get rid of it after the first tenant. We held on to it for 3 more tenants and now got rid of it, but some people just don't like tenants, right?
Mhm.
And the responsibility. So those are a lot of the good. Those are a lot of the benefits of pre-construction. And just to list them out: deferred deposit, deferred financing, deferred closing, deferred tenancy, pick your finishes, pick your floor plan, better technology, and future value. All right, those really are the 8 ones that you want to be mindful of. But there's also the negatives,
Yep.
right? And
Yeah.
guys, we're going to be transparent today, right? We're going to
Yeah.
be transparent. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. There are some negatives related to pre-construction. Let's go. What do we have, guys?
Projects getting canceled,
Yes.
investing in a project and having it get canceled after 3 years and you get your deposit back and you're priced out of the market.
Yeah. So if anybody's reading the news, there's many projects that were canceled. Now, Sabrina, you were foot on the ground with Icona.
Yeah.
So tell us about, as a sales rep, what it was like selling that project, selling the idea, and then what happened, and how your clients felt after.
It was like the biggest thing in Vaughan. Literally sold out in a day.
Yeah.
They were supposed to release the first tower, only sold out in a day. Release the second tower, release the third tower. Everybody was really excited, and we just waited and waited. And after about 3 years, everybody got a call saying the project's just been canceled.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, it was devastating for a lot of people.
And devastating
And
for a
for
commission
us.
sales rep.
Absolutely. So,
Right.
you know, and it happens.
Yeah.
But it's really important to see who you're purchasing from.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things is
Yeah.
making sure that you're buying with a reputable builder who does their due diligence, or who has enough funds to actually go through with the construction,
Absolutely.
stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and on the same topic, project getting canceled is one, project getting delayed is another one.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a good friend who now lives in BC, and when she was young and single, she bought a condo because it was the thing to do, and she just had to put small deposits at a time, and it was right across from the Drake Hotel. It was 150 Sudbury, right, which is Urban Court. And by the time she got her keys, she was married and had her 3-year-old child. And she said, Rav, I have no desire to be in this condo. Alicia, you know who I'm talking about, right? And great gal. And, we rented it out for a while. And then she moved to BC and we sold it. But, you got to be mindful that delays are another major part of pre-construction,
I feel like you
right?
should always just expect that it's going to be
Expect
delayed.
it, yeah.
When they say it's going to be ready in 4 years, expect like 4.5, 5,
Yeah.
usually.
Unless it's Tridel, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what? We are fans of Tridel. They do execute pretty quickly. The
Sanders
well,
pretty good too.
every time I get down to Front and Spadina, it's mind blowing how much they've built for the well. It's interesting. Right?
Transit City's actually ready on time.
On time, Transit City, right? So there are projects that do finish on time, but rule of thumb, if they tell you 2024, plan for 2025.
Yeah.
That's right.
What else bad?
I think a lot of people can't grasp the concept of what square footage looks like on paper. So like a layout may say 620 square feet, but they don't really know what 620 square
Yeah.
feet looks like. So having that kind of surprise once the building is done kind of shocks people.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing. You're not actually in a tangible object that you are purchasing, right? You're literally just buying a piece of paper and a floor plan.
Yeah, and you know what? On that topic, I've had clients who, the day of their PDI, they walk in and they're like, I can't believe this is what I bought.
Yeah.
Right? Question, Alicia?
Kyra wants to know what other developers are good.
Yes. Great question, Kyra. So, in terms of developers or builders that we kind of give our stamp to, why don't we do a round table? We can each name 2 or 3 of our favorites.
So Tridel is one of my favorites. Actually, it's funny because one of the things I remember when I met Winston one time, Tridel is one of those builders who like do everything exactly to what the renderings say. Like, if the rendering has an orange chair in the lobby, you better believe that once it's complete, there's going to be that exact same orange chair in the lobby. So like, that's one thing Tridel's very good at, is like sticking with their word and delivering what is promised.
Trail's definitely number one.
Yeah.
for a lot of
Who else?
people. Daniels.
Daniels has done some great projects. They've done the whole Regent Park gentrification.
Yeah.
They've done Daniels
Yeah.
waterfront. I'm gonna say Empire,
Empire.
because we bought from Empire, and they've built recently Eau de Soleil. They're building Empire Maverick, Empire Phoenix. Shout out to Dan Floman and his team. Who else?
Peter Fried is
Yeah.
one of my top ones as well.
So interesting thing about Peter Fried. Some people like him, some people don't. But I'll say Peter Fried, he understands, he's a visionary.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And growing pains, he's had some delivery challenges here and there, but he's definitely a visionary. Alicia, there's another question.
Yeah, Nicole Malik asks, how do you guys feel about Mattamy and Fernbrook as developers? And
Yeah.
Pinnacle's good.
Pinnacle's good.
Yeah.
So one of the things, Jord, I'll say is when you look at developers, there's money in density. So Pinnacle, for example, I believe that they're the ones behind One Young, like they're going high. And anybody going higher and higher and doing denser and denser, that's going to be new ground for them. So you just got to know that if the project is ambitious, that the builder's now, jumping a higher hurdle. But they do pretty good work,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think which Pinnacle building I'm fond of. The ones down by Fort York are great that Pinnacle did. But they've done good work.
What about
Mattamy?
So, interestingly, go ahead, Josh.
Mattamy, if I can remember, is like they do mainly low rise, right? So, but I do
Yeah.
know that they do good work. I know a lot of subdivisions that are Mattamy homes that are built very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Homes I've heard they've done well. Condos, not as well.
So Mattamy
Yeah.
Fernbrook, if I'm not mistaken, they were the ones behind Absolute World, I think. And that was very ambitious, and it was for Mississauga, so it was even further of a challenge. Mattamy on a low rise in a residential site, big thumbs up. And every low rise builder, if they get a piece of land in Toronto, they're not building low rise,
No.
Yeah.
subdivision homes anymore. They're building mid rise or
Towers.
density,
Yeah.
right? I'd say Mattamy Fernbrook, okay.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I probably
for
wouldn't
condos
put them
at
at the
least.
top end.
Yeah, for condos at
Yeah.
least.
Okay, so we listed out some of our favorite builders. Just to round out that list, I'll say usually Menkes is pretty good.
Yes.
I've found that some of the other developers that I personally am fond of, there's a developer called Streetcar, and I mean, they're a little bit more of a boutique builder. They don't build high rise as much as they build mid rise, but their buildings have done very well on the resale. The most recent one that they did was the Broadview Hotel, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And
Times Group is also a very good.
Oh,
builder.
yes.
Time Troop's great.
They have I mean their finishes are all good. Their workmanship is good. Just quality seems like a little bit more higher in Times Group buildings.
yeah, and then I'm also a big fan of Great Gulf. So it's interesting. When you look at buildings that have stood the test of time, sometimes one building will outperform the other on the same corner. And
Mhm.
Tridel has this building called the Element, and Great Gulf has this building called the Hudson. They're right at the same location, right at King and Spadina, but the price per square foot, if you bought at the Hudson, you've done much better than the Element. So, interesting. And Great Gulf is a huge builder. Alicia?
Anish wants to know who would you avoid with a 10-foot pole?
Ah, good question.
Gupta.
So Gupta, we definitely would avoid Gupta. We bought some land from Gupta, and we're gonna name names today.
Sorry.
And Urban Corp, obviously,
Urban Corp
we
is done
avoid
well
them.
anyways, yeah.
Everybody knows Urban Corp fiasco. I'm not a big fan of the project, and this is just my personal opinion, but there's a project by Greenland that's going up on Queens Quay. We didn't sell there, you know. Who else? I mean, 10-foot pole is kind of a tough metric because you have to factor in price as part of your equation too. But those are probably three that I'd be cautious
Well,
of.
I'll tell you this. Like, I purchased one of my pre-construction condos at Queen and Dufferin, and I didn't really do too much research on the builder. It was actually a very small builder called, I believe, Royal Queen Developments. And I honestly didn't do any research, but we got it at such an amazing price point. We just bought it anyways. But they were so bad of a builder that we were fortunate enough that the building actually got complete and we were actually able to get our keys, but they went bankrupt after that. And then, I mean, me as a realtor, I didn't get my commissions for that, and a bunch of other realtors who sold in that project did not receive commissions either because they went bankrupt. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's very hard now that they went bankrupt to go after them for any problems you had during the PDI or anything like that. It's just not very well managed anymore because of the builder.
Yeah, and to add to that, Anish, I'll say, like Justin, if you listen to his story, he was talking to a builder that he didn't necessarily do full research on, and it was a small builder.
Yeah,
So small builder without a proven track record,
you're taking a risk. for sure.
You got to be careful.
Yeah.
Alicia,
Nikki Tingson asks, do boutique condos have a better resale value versus high-rise condos?
great question. There's a yes and no to that question. I'll say, or you guys can go ahead. Boutique versus high rise.
So yes, less inventory, less competition.
Yeah, so one of the things we factor in is exactly what Sabrina said, scarcity value
Mhm.
or unique factor. I will say though, that's one of many factors.
Yeah.
That's right.
So one of the things that is going to be a theme that I'd like everybody to remember, buy something that the landscape is changing. If you're buying pre-construction, you have an opportunity to buy into a future. The people who bought at the most recent City Place building in the Skydome neighborhood, they're doing okay. But the people who bought at 81 Navy Wharf, they bought at the start,
Yeah.
right? And by the way, you are buying a one bedroom with parking there for $90,000, right? So I think it's like high rise can do well, mid rise can do well, boutique can do well, but you want to kind of capture a change. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Sean Fernandez. Hi, Sean. How much can the floor plan change from initial purchase to construction slash possession? How much liberty does the builder have to make changes?
Good
Oh, well,
question.
you gotta find a very, very small print that says subject to change without notice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Sabrina, maybe you would know more than me, but like, I don't think they can change it too drastically. I'm not too sure.
The
but-
square footage can change a little bit. They
Yeah,
always say
could
it's
vary.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, so the actual agreement also is very one sided.
Yeah.
You're buying basically a conditional, theoretical agreement of purchase and sale, Sean. I'll just share with you, someone on this call was very disappointed in Monarch because he bought a townhouse and then found out that due to grading, he had to put in like a step or two to get to his patio. So just be mindful that those things subject to change,
Yeah.
conditional upon grading, where grading permits, pending. Oh, here's a big one. Okay, when you're buying pre-construction, big question to ask: are your permits in place? Are you site plan approved?
Yeah.
So on the Gupta project in Vaughan, why don't you tell them about the hotel and that component?
He owned a piece of land, he owned the Hilton, so it gave everybody, a good feeling about it because he owned the land, but he had a restrictive covenant on the land that nobody knew about, where he can only build hotels
Yeah.
And not condos.
and not condos. So after he sold out the project, he tried to go back in and reappeal it, and it got declined, so everybody just got their deposit back.
Yeah, so not only the floor plan can change, but the whole concept of the building could
Yeah.
potentially change too, right? When you're buying, you got to know where the builder is in their process. Is there another question, Leash?
Yeah. Shant.
Yeah?
You keep mentioning high rise and low rise. What are the differences?
I would say like boutique is kind of like under 10?
Yeah.
10
So,
stories, and then high rise
Yeah.
is like anything like 15 and above.
up.
yeah, so, it's one of those industry terms that we use a little
It
bit,
could be subjective.
yeah, a little bit subjectively. But high rise, you're really talking
20 and over.
20 and over.
And then there's mid rise, I would say is between 10 to 20.
Yeah.
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 Can you guys elaborate on landscape is changing?
Yeah, who asked that? Nikki? So, one of the big things we always coach people on, and I use this term all the time, is lay of the land. So, is there going to be new transit? Is there going to be new retail? Is there going to be new cultural hotspot? Is there going to be new schools,
Schools, church, anything.
hospitals? When you buy something and the landscape of the land is changing, you're not just buying another condo, you're buying into something different.
Community, yeah.
So-
Future plan, community.
On Peter Freed, when he sold 32 Stewart, which is one of his first buildings at the King and Portland Pocket, there was no Sault Ste. Lee, there was no, petty cash, there was no King Portland Center, there was nothing. It was like, it was far. It's like a place that no one went.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for Queen East. When the 90 was getting built, or 68 Broadview, that was not where you wanted to live. When you had friends and they lived over the bridge, that was like far, right?
Yeah.
Now that's Leslieville, which is a hot pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the topic of lay of the land, we are going to use this as a segue. I'm a big proponent of a project called Galleria on the Park because it is a master plan community with 20,000 square feet of office, 30,000 square feet of retail, 8 acre of park, 80,000 square foot of planned community center, and 8 towers. It is an aggressive, well thought out, site plan approved, shovel in the ground, great opportunity. And if I tell my mom I'm going to buy a condo at Dufferin and DuPont, she will look at me confused. But mark my words, that is a place to invest. Okay, so builders, I hope we covered that. High rise and low rise. Going back to good, the bad, and the ugly, just to be clear, we talked about all the benefits of pre-con. Price, kind of a shady area
Yeah.
because it's more expensive than resale, but it's less expensive than the theoretical future value,
That's right.
right? And I hope everybody captures that. Bad, projects getting canceled, floor plans getting changed, delays on delivery, poor workmanship. Sometimes builders hire subs, like subcontractors, and it could be just disasterful.
And
Mm-hmm.
also higher closing fees, which we're probably going to get into
Yes.
after.
Yeah, actually, we can talk about that now.
Yeah.
So another sort of negative is closing costs. Anybody want to take that on?
Which the developer also, it's very important to get your contract reviewed within the 10 days. And sometimes when you go to the site yourself, they won't tell you that. They'll just say, here's your contract, you signed it, look it over. But if you can actually have a lawyer review everything, make sure your levies are capped,
Yes.
assignment fees,
Yes.
which I guess we'll get
Waived,
into,
yeah.
are waived. And if they're waived, there's so many little things. Sometimes they'll say the levies are capped, but they're not all capped.
Yeah.
Specific levies only.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's very important to get your contract reviewed.
So guys, just to be clear on just to further, develop on Sabrina's point here, when you buy a resale home, like a resale condo, for example, you pay a lawyer and you pay the government land transfer tax. When you buy a new property, you pay a lawyer and you pay land transfer tax and you pay a bunch of other costs that can get sort of enveloped as municipal levies, or basically cost to close, and HST.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so resale, you have 2 closings, or 2 costs. New condo, you have 4 costs.
Yeah.
Now that being said, HST usually is factored into the purchase price,
Mhm.
other than the amount that the government rebates you. And that's a little bit of a long story.
Yeah.
In the interest of time, anybody who wants to dig more, call any one of us and we'll explain to you how the HST and HST rebate components work. But understand that cost of closing is another part of the bad.
Yeah.
Sean is asking, has COVID changed your outlooks on pre-con from an investment perspective, and will outdoor space be at a larger premium now?
Good question.
I think so.
Why don't we each answer that one? COVID factor.
I think it's a good time to purchase pre-construction. I think right now, if something's going to be ready in 4 years, we're expecting everything to balance out and get better. And you're
Yeah.
getting some really good deals on the market.
Yes, yes. What else are you
Yeah,
gonna add?
I think it would depend on like certain projects, right? Like, I guess still some builders are reflecting their pricing because of COVID, and
Yeah.
some builders are still
Or not.
charging whatever price they were going to charge pre-COVID. So I think it really depends, but I think one thing that is kind of hurting the pre-construction market is the lack of foreigners that are coming here, because
Yeah.
a lot of our pre-construction market was driven by foreign investors as well. But would I buy pre-construction right now that COVID happened? I would say yes. Like, we just bought District, and then I just purchased one at Muskoka Bay Resorts. So I do think that there are deals out there, and maybe, maybe not the newest launches where you're gonna get the best deal. Maybe it's remaining inventory of a project where
Yeah.
you'll get a great deal.
Yes. And just to add to what Sabrina and Justin said, I personally am very pro Toronto, very pro GTA, very pro Southern Ontario, and very pro Canada. So, the current president of the United States, we won't get into politics, but one of the very smart things he said on 60 Minutes a long time ago is he said, I believe in New York. And when it got rough out there, guess what he did? He bought. And I'd argue that right now there are certain incentives that you just wouldn't have if everybody from Brazil, China, India, Turkey, Iran are all coming with their money to buy. Because they're not right now, there's a small window of opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The other big thing about buying pre-con versus buying resale condo is if you buy pre-con, hopefully 4 years from now, 5 years from now, placing a tenant isn't like right now. Because placing a
Yeah.
tenant right now is
Not easy.
it's not easy.
No.
Okay.
Janice, regarding investment properties to flip/rent, and with more people moving outside of the city, would you recommend investing elsewhere, and what neighborhoods/cities would you recommend?
Mm.
Barry.
I like Barrie. I personally have purchased in Barrie. Rental market is very good, even throughout the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Durham,
Yeah.
good rental market.
Term's good. York is okay. Markham has some good opportunities.
Justin just purchased, and I'll just share with you, a recreational property in Muskoka. And I do believe that that is a gold mine. Actually, Walter Schneider, the founder of Remax Integra, co-founder, one time he pulled me aside and he said, you guys are young. Go buy some property on water on Southern Ontario. They're not making more waterfront. So, I mean, there's a tip from literally the big boss, right? And I do believe in that. Just to add to your question, Janice, and just to talk about the flip side, I want to forewarn people that there's a piece of the market that has done really well flipping pre-construction. And when I say really well, I mean make a lot of money
Yeah.
because the market has done really, really well. We kind of advise people that, hey, if you make money short run, that's awesome, but don't bank on it.
Yeah.
Bank on it 7 years, 10 years, 25 years. Own a property, pay it off, collect the income. You won't go wrong. Short run, if you're buying to flip, and I'm not sure if you're talking about like renovating and selling, but if you're talking about buying the paper and flipping the paper, that's a little bit of a double-edged sword. You can do really well, and a lot of people have done really well. Generally speaking, that's a little bit more speculative investing, and just be
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah, like what I was going on before, it's like before, like when I first bought my first pre-construction, we were able to make a lot more money because we were paying today's prices. But again, builders are getting smart where they're charging 2 years from now what they think the price is going to be. So I don't think the flipping is the strategy right now in today's market. I don't think like that's where you'll make the most money, especially not on pre-construction where you're paying such high closing costs, and
Yeah.
carrying it could be so expensive and,
For
and
sure.
stuff like that. So it's a long term game for me, the pre-construction.
On the topic of where outside of the city, we sold some pre-construction in downtown Kitchener, downtown Waterloo. So for anybody who knows, RIM was founded in downtown Waterloo, Waterloo University. The tech fallout from RIM has included tons of founder money, venture capitalist money in Waterloo, and Kitchener Waterloo just created their light rail transit, their above ground subway, and they have so many tech jobs. Google has, I think, 10,000 square feet. Shopify has 10,000 square feet. If I was personally investing outside of the city in a condo pre-construction, that's where I'm going.
I
And
agree.
shout out to Cliff Rago from Rago Realty, because we've definitely got a link and a good connection to a huge pipeline in Kitchener Waterloo too. So just summarizing, recreation property, Kitchener Waterloo, Barrie, Durham region. These are all places where you can get in without paying down. Oakville. These are all places where you can get in and buy a condo that, in theory, will be worth a lot more. But you're not buying for 700, and then hoping it's worth 900. You're buying for 400 and hoping it's worth 550.
Yeah.
So it's a lower entry point and it's manageable. Okay, so we talked about builders, we talked about benefits, we talked about negatives. In terms of incentives, you want to look when you're buying pre-construction at many different things. What are some of the things that you want to look at that could be a benefit of a current promotion from the builder?
Capped levies, capped development fees.
Yeah, so when we talk about municipal levies, the builder sometimes caps them, right? What
Yeah.
else, guys?
Extended deposit structure. So instead of paying your 15% in the first year, they'll stretch it out to the first 15% in 2 years, let's just say.
Yeah, extended deposit structure. The usual kind of rough and tough, like we know we got good stuff, you got to pay the deposits structure is like 30, 90, 180, 270 in terms of the days where you put your 5%. And like I said, with district, for example, we had a crazy good deposit
Yeah.
structure. You can kind of digest 2.5% every 6 months. It's a little easier.
That's
For
right.
sure.
Other incentives?
Free upgrades.
Upgrades. Sometimes the builder doesn't give away price, but the builder gives away upgrades.
Upgrades, yeah.
What else?
Free assignment fees.
Yeah, so there's this subsegment of the market where people are assigning their original purchase agreement, and usually the builder charges $5,000 or more. Sometimes they'll give that for free.
There's a lot of restrictions with that though.
Oh, yeah, there's lots of fine print,
Yeah.
and we'll get into that
Yeah.
not tonight, but there's lots of fine
Yeah.
print. What are some of the other incentives?
Leasing during occupancy is allowed.
Yes.
Yeah, so if anyone's novice to pre-construction, you get your keys at what's called occupancy, but you don't actually close on the condo until what's called registration. And that could take anywhere from a couple of months to several months or longer. And during that time, you're not allowed to lease the property. But we usually negotiate for our buyers the right to lease during interim occupancy. Are we missing any? Builder upgrades,
Yeah.
right to lease, cap levies, right to assign.
Some builders are offering rental guarantees.
Rental
Ah,
guarantees.
so some builders will say, listen, it's going to cost you $2,000 a month. We guarantee we'll place a tenant and give you $2,000 a month. Fine print on that
Fine
too.
print, yeah.
Asterisk. We can talk about that
Yeah,
at
make
another
sure you get a
event.
lawyer to review that.
And it
rental
could be a
contract.
financing challenge too.
Some have offered like free Metro Pass.
Free Metro Pass.
Free Metro Pass.
Yeah.
Now like interest on your deposit.
Yeah. Actually, the funniest one I've ever heard was they will give you a Mercedes Benz, right? Or sometimes they'll give you like a trip around the world, or they'll give you. There was a big event. It was the Lunar New Year event, and anyone who bought got. What was the purse? A
Birkin.
Birkin. They got a Birkin purse, right? So there's all kinds of gimmickry things. Those are less sort of focused incentives, but I mean, builders want to sell units.
Yeah.
They know how to market sometimes, right? Any other incentives? Are we missing any? I think we've covered most of them.
That
Right?
nice sweater. Yeah.
Yeah, nice little swag
Nice
bag,
sweater.
right? So in terms of risk versus reward, that's another important topic that we want to talk about. When you're buying pre-construction, you're not buying bricks and mortar. You're buying a piece of paper with a promise to deliver at some time in the future bricks and mortar. So, everybody's got their different viewpoint on pre-construction. I believe it's a stepping stone investment. You don't have $150,000, you don't need it. You just need 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, or whatever it may be. But understand there's risk associated and you're paying a premium for that convenience. There's risk associated, there's reward associated, but it's a stepping stone property. Having bought pre-construction, all of us, would you buy pre-construction if you had the funds, or would you buy resale if you had the funds?
Resale
Resale.
for me. Yeah.
Resale, right? Most likely.
Yeah, resale.
So to illustrate that, we currently have a listing on the market at Jane and Rutherford, which is in Vaughan. Vaughan seems to be the flavor today,
Yeah.
right? It's called Bellaria. It's 3.5 years old. It's priced at $737 per square foot, including parking, and there was $50,000 in upgrades from the builder. Menke's is launching Festival at Jane and Highway 7, so arguably a premium location, and they're asking $1,100 a square foot. So you can see the price differential, right? I definitely think resale is a good way to go. Pre-construction is not a bad way to go.
No.
And we're talking about condos. Condos are an alternative type of housing. Condos are an alternative type of ownership. Let's talk about the benefit of being a landlord to a condo versus being a landlord to a duplex in Hamilton, Oshawa, or Barrie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a different pedigree of tenant usually, and there's less maintenance. There's just a maintenance fee,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
That's an easy way to say it. Alicia?
Sean's asking, if you buy pre-construction and your situation or life changes, what are your options to get out of the contract can you get out?
I would say you would have to assign it, which means you have to find a buyer who's willing to take that floor plan off your hands. So whether it's for a profit or you're willing just to let it go at whatever price you paid for it. But yeah, other than that, you can't really void the deal with the builder. You kind of just have to find a buyer to take over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer, Sean, is usually no,
Yeah.
right? Outside of the buyer passing away and the estate taking over the contract, from a legal perspective, it's a firm and binding contract.
Yeah.
Unless you sell, yeah.
Builders don't want to create precedent either,
Yeah.
right? So you need to be, at least in some respects, financially secure,
That's right.
right?
I mean, if worst comes to worst, I mean, you sell it for a little bit of a loss and you recoup as much deposits as you can. I mean, I think you can find an investor who's willing to take something off your
Yes.
hands on a good deal,
Yeah.
but I think that's your real only option.
And, you know, we have horror stories of people who have said, listen, I can think of one in particular where that person, you know, just did not have the money for the deposits. And guess what? When push came to shove, they found the money for the deposits,
Yeah.
right? Which is sometimes not the easiest thing.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be the option of either you assign it or you find alternative lending if you really cannot find financing the traditional way.
He also wants to know what happens to your investment if the development gets canceled.
Yeah.
You get your deposit back with 0 interest.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it gets canceled, you get your deposit back.
Yeah.
If the developer goes into receivership, meaning the developer shuts down and is like, we're broke, the creditors fall in line and you will be a creditor, but there is deposit insurance from the government, right?
Yeah.
So we did talk a lot about deposits. In terms of your team and who to involve, the realtor that you're working with needs to be transparent and understand that if you walk into a sales center, you have no buyer representation. Also, our industry right now is ripe for disruption. There's a lot of realtors who literally push every possible pre-construction project. We're not a big fan of that. So find representation that's going to look at you as an individual and not just promote the condo flavor of the week. All right. So just candidly speaking, openly speaking, That's an important part of it.
Mhm.
You want a lawyer who understands that contract.
Yes.
You know, big thank you to Mitch Corman and Adam Richardson and the whole team at Corman and Company. They know all the builder, you know, Harris Schaefer and all those guys that you may write the checks to. They know all those lawyers well. Um, you probably want an inspector for your PDI, and then you want a good mortgage lender
Yeah.
who can really help advise on your mortgage requirements and give you a mortgage letter for the purpose of qualifying for the purchase.
And then one more important piece would be, I would say, an accountant. Because when it comes to like HST implications, whether you buy it as an investor or you buy it primary residence, there's going to be some tax implications. So I think having a good accountant is very important too.
Yeah, and you know what? A tax advisor or good accountant, that's one of those ones where you don't necessarily see it at the start, but it's definitely a good person to have on your team.
For sure.
In terms of what to avoid, you got to be careful with where you're buying and do your homework. You know, the internet has so much information, it can be confusing. Talk to people, understand who the builder is, where you're buying, you know, make sure that the realtor you're working with is not just showing you a floor plan, but really taking you through the journey of that project. Anything else to add on terms of what to avoid?
I think one thing that a lot of people maybe kind of look past is like when you're buying a pre-construction, they don't look at the actual key layout of the actual floor. So
yeah.
you don't know where your unit is relative to where the elevator is or where the garbage chute is or something like that. So a lot of people like will finally their unit is done, they get into their unit and they're like, oh shoot, the garbage chute is right beside me, right? So
Yeah.
if you were to kind of look through that key plan before you decide which unit you want, you can kind of avoid that.
Yeah.
And I would say look at some resales. Say if you're approved for, you know, your budget is 550 square feet, go look at some resale condos that are that size so you're not surprised when
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
unit's ready, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
And on what to avoid, I'd say don't buy and pay a massive premium for unobstructed view, because any unobstructed view other than a view of the lake
Yeah.
is just temporarily unobstructed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
And we've had clients who, you know, anywhere, Scarborough, you know, downtown, it's like, oh, we love our view. Oh, we want to sell. We just found out they're building another building. Could have told you.
It's gonna happen.
And I think like as an investor, paying a super high premium for a high view is not worth it
No.
because you will not gain that back even with if you rent it out for a little bit more just because you have a higher view. It's paying an extra 40,000 for, you know, a nice view. It's going to take a long time to make that up
Yeah.
Yes.
in the additional rent you're getting, let's just say.
And right now, just to be clear, if you're an investor and you do the cash flow analysis on pre-construction, it does not serve its purpose. So if you're looking for a pure cash flow investment, you're probably looking outside of the city. Excuse me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're probably looking outside of the city.
For sure.
Success stories. Any good success stories you guys want to share?
You go for it.
Okay, yeah. So I purchased the one at Queen and Dufferin, like I was telling you, with the small developer. They were actually when they were first selling it, they were having a very hard time. So they brought in a new brokerage to help sell, and I believe it was Milbourne at the time. So they actually this unit that I purchased was originally at 330,000. And then they revamped the whole price list, and then we got it down to 290,000. So we waited 4 years; it was completed, and then the occupancy took actually a year and a half. So this time between us getting the keys and final closing, we had a year and a half. And why it was a big benefit for us is because during that occupancy period, we're paying an occupancy fee, which was maybe about $800 at the time, but they were allowing us to rent it out during this occupancy fee. So we were renting it out, I think, at the time for $1,500. So we were able to cash flow $700 a month
Great.
for this year and a half that occupancy was taking place. So
Beautiful.
we were actually hoping that these builders would take longer for final registration so we
Yeah.
could cash flow a little bit more. Because once final registration happens, our monthly expenses are not only $800 now, it's $800 plus our maintenance fees, plus our property tax,
Yeah.
so on and so on. So, but yeah, so it all worked out for us, and then now that condo is probably worth about 600,000,
Mm-hmm.
and then we bought it about 6 years ago for
For
290.
290.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm going to go with one. So a lot of people talk about launches. I have clients that were going on what we call inventory clear out. And sometimes the incentives for inventory clear out are just too good. So my clients, they lived in Liberty Village and they wanted to downsize from a pretty large Liberty Village townhouse to a one bedroom and den, maybe 2 bedroom condo. And I found one where, and this was at the Thompson Residences, where it was $10,000. That's all you needed. And then it was zero monthly during occupancy. So literally you gave $10,000, you moved in, and you paid nothing until you closed. And that took about a year.
Yeah.
So they basically lived cost of housing free for I think 14 months, right? Talk about finding incentive that works for you. That was huge, right? Success stories?
Me, like I've been selling real estate for about 5 years, so a lot of the condos that I did sell are ready now.
Yes.
So, in general, I've just seen a lot of people make a lot of money.
Make a lot of money, right? The market
Yeah.
over the last 5 years, if you put $80,000 into pre-con, your equity now is probably 160,
Absolutely.
right? Which
Yeah.
is a big win. It's
Yeah.
hard to find somewhere where you're doubling your money in 5 years, cash to cash. Right?
Yeah.
And it was tough. Like when I bought my condo in downtown Markham, we bought it for like 300,000, but we were looking at like the townhouses at the time. But the townhouses that were like 650,000 at the time, and it was a little bit out of our reach. So that's one of the things that were expensive at the time, but now those same condo townhouses or those same townhouses are like worth 1.3 million.
Yeah.
So that was like in a span of 10 years, it more than doubled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the equity gains have been tremendous, and like I said, I'm very bullish on Toronto over the next 10 years. I do also want to say we don't have a demand problem, we have a supply problem. Every year, 300,000 people are moving to Canada. Every year, half of them are moving to the GTA. Every year, we deliver about 25,000 to 40,000 homes, and every year, they get more expensive because we can't make enough homes. So think about, like, project that over 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for our kids? Brad Lamb posted on Instagram 3 days ago. If you have children, the best thing you can do for them is find property to invest on their behalf. And I'm actively doing that for my kids right now.
Absolutely.
So, nightmare stories. We've talked about developers canceling. We've talked about, horrendous challenges with delays. The only thing I think we can add is sometimes they get built really bad.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever bought something and the rendering says exposed concrete, integrated this, modern that, and then you walk in and you say, this exposed concrete is actually what I saw in the parking lot, of my university. Like, it's bad sometimes, right?
Or sometimes the whole project won't get canceled, but they've only been approved, say, up until, the 11th floor, and you purchase something on the 14th floor. And
Yes,
they're like, sorry, your floor's been canceled.
we didn't
So
get the
that can
density,
happen. Yeah.
right? Other than that, circumstance changing, I think that's another big one,
Mm-hmm.
right? In terms of checklists, let's just say you say, okay, we want to buy a pre-construction. We have this much money. What do you do?
The whole process of
Yeah,
purchasing
like,
a pre-construction?
Like, let's just say someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm thinking about pre-con. What are the steps involved?
Show them projects. Once you narrow down which project you're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
show them floor plans,
Yeah.
price lists, find them the unit, get them the signing within the 10 days. You have 10 days to review your contract. Make sure you get a lawyer to review everything, and then you get your mortgage approval within the 10 days,
Yes.
and you firm up within then. And in the same time, I would say if you're purchasing like a Daniels building or a Tridel, go look at some Tridel buildings
Yes.
and see their finishes. And
Good. All
Yeah.
good answers. And to add to that, I'll say, learn about the landscape. Learn about why you're buying into this neighborhood, why you're buying into this area, and also budget accordingly,
yeah,
right? Figure out where you need to be, and don't be trigger shy. There's a million reasons not to do something, but the reality is, over time, it will likely be in your benefit, as we've seen countless times, if you do actually acquire the right project with the right calculated risk. Anything else you guys want to add today?
I think another thing too is important is like go to the sales center and really get a feel for the project. Like once you see the rendering of the building, you see the model suites, and you see the type of finishes they have, you can really feel the project once you get into a nice sales center. So that's important.
yeah,
Yeah, and you know what? Make sure that when you're buying, you do as much homework as possible, right? I mean, yes, take action and be in action, but do as much homework as possible, and assemble the people around you who are going to give you real, candid advice, not just the high line, but every line after that too, right? So
yeah.
there's a question.
Nikki asks, there's a lot of talk about the housing bubble crashing next year, example about 10% drop in price. What are your thoughts on this? How would this impact pre-con developments closing in 2021 or early 2022?
You guys want to take a stab at that? I'm happy to take a stab at that.
Go for it.
I'll say, Nikki, you're absolutely right with regards to price correction. Price correction is one of these things that a lot of salespeople don't like to highlight, but as the economy recesses, and we literally talked about this on Tuesday, there will be a fall in demand. There will be a balance to the market, and we'll either see the slope of appreciation fall off, or we'll see prices actually come down. I think prices will actually come down. I think condos will get hit first, and I think it will be a V-shaped recovery. I think what we have right now are the fundamentals of a great city. I think what we have right now is a fall and a quick rebound. I think literally the entire world is waiting for Toronto to go on sale so they can go buy stuff. And we'll see a quick, fast, rapid recovery. It's just we're dealing with a very, very new situation with this pandemic. And in 2021, go out and buy something because there'll be deals.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. And I think like now that CERB has kind of extended itself, we won't see prices drop as significantly as some may be hoping for, just because there is still government assistance, right? But once I think that government assistance kind of dries up, then people will start being distressed. People are going to start worrying that they can't afford their mortgage anymore, so they're going to be forced to sell. So I think when that time comes, that's where you could find good deals.
Yeah, so I would say prepare yourself to find opportunities because there will be opportunities. And for people who have lost, skin in the game, if you can hold on to it, it will rebound. Any more questions, Alicia?
No, we're okay.
Okay, so we're 8 minutes over. We wanted to give you guys an hour today. You can follow us at Connexus Group on Instagram, and the first 5 people to tag us in a post or story are going to receive one of these Los Cardos Malbecs from Argentina. All you have to do is take a picture or post about this to your story or to your feed and tag at Connexus Group. And the first 5 to do that, as soon as we see them, we're going to get these bottles of wine delivered to you. Thank you to everybody who's been talking to us tonight virtually. We love client events. We love the opportunity to network and meet our clients. COVID has, put a dent into that, and this is something new for us. But it's been fun, and you know what? We also love the industry we work in. So to have these questions, Nikki, Kyra, Sean Fernandez, Nish, everybody who's been interacting with us, we do appreciate it. Next week is the last of our 3 talks. On Tuesday, today's Wednesday, on Tuesday next week, we have a talk called Get Rich Slow. And it will explore the idea of wealth creation through different streams and how buying real estate, I believe it's Tuesday, guys.
Tuesday,
Wednesday.
this Tuesday. No,
It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Buying real estate through
It is.
Tuesday.
throughout your life, how that can really transform your experience and create something called legacy wealth. And we're going to deliver something called our Connexus Wealth Roadmap. And wherever you are on that roadmap, whether it's paying off your debt, building your 3-month bank reserve, buying your own home, or buying your first investment property, or scaling that process, wherever you are, if you move forward on that, how that can literally transform your life and the lives around you, we're super excited about that. So, on behalf of Ashley, who couldn't be here tonight, Sabrina, Justin, Alicia, and Shant, and myself, thank you. This is new for us. We hope that you got something good out of it. Tag us on IG. There's bottles of wine waiting for you guys, and thank you. You guys.